some of this. There's one other thing that I could mention, and that is that giving them something that they can themselves help to move to that thing, I think is important. And although we tried to get it from the clinicians and couldn't get it from the clinicians, we had a Reiki teacher come up to the house who was prepared to come up every day for a couple of weeks and teach my daughter how to do Reiki on herself, so that when the symptoms were the most severe, and often they were, she suffered a lot of pain during the night and whatever, she was able to do that from herself and help to control her illness to a certain degree. So giving the power to the person who's ill, and Tom might want to comment on that, was extremely helpful. And I have to say, she became very spiritual from that, not sort of necessarily religiously spiritual, but spiritual as a person, which was a coping mechanism which she had to deal with the day-to-day ongoing illness and the ups and downs.
Yeah, just to jump in there, definitely I can associate with the spiritual thing. For me, I haven't had experience with Reiki, but just in an attempt to try and calm my whole overstressed system, even though I didn't necessarily feel that kind of stress like when you're running around, but just very clearly, sensory stimulation and everything like that. And also measured with my smartwatch, which was kind of telling me that my stress level was 100%. So for me, I used things like I really enjoy a little meditation app, Yoga Nidra, which is just lying down, no stretching or yoga. And we can provide a link to this and the PDF summary of the talk. And when I was feeling, so I was a little bit more moderate, less severe. I did some very gentle Tai Chi exercises. That would be too much for some people. It involves standing and moving their arms, but that was helpful for me. And one of the biggest struggles that I found was a sort of envy, jealousy of, normally I would say I'm a very positive person, but through this, of course, you have that huge feeling of missing out on things. And I started to feel resentment when good things were happening for my friends, which is a horrible feeling. Nobody wants to feel that. And for me personally, the way I dealt with that was doing loving kindness meditations, which is a Buddhist thing. And the key thing there is you remember that everybody suffers at some point in their life sooner or later. And so we're all in the same boat from that point of view. Many people hide it and don't share it. And when you think about it, you don't want anyone to experience that. So just reminding yourself, oh, yeah, okay, so I'm not as alone in my misery as I might have thought. Yeah. So, yeah, we could maybe provide some links to that. But, of course, I would also just add everybody's on their own journey. That's what worked for me. Everybody has to find what works for them.
Can I just add something to that? My daughter now, meditates every day and finds that very helpful. So all of you've said, I totally resonate with. But just one other thing, and you talked about stress, but feeling all over the place, and you could tell maybe your heart rate was up and things like that. So in the acute phase, my daughter most of it is at night, and so my wife would sit up with her most nights, really, and we would try and deal with this. A couple of times it got so severe we actually did get young doctors to come up to the house, and they measured everything, and her blood sugar was all over the place, and her temperature, and all of her homeostatic mechanisms were just all over the place, which I think was what you were referring to, that kind of stress, And they said, look, they were really nice young people, and they said, we don't really have anything except we could put her out, So my wife met a woman who had a practice called Healing Hands. So one night when it was really bad, she rang up this woman at 3:00 in the morning who came, and I'm a biomedical scientist. I believe in evidence-based medicine, and I was just totally shocked. This woman put her hands just very close to my daughter, and for about 20 minutes she managed to calm all of her disturbed physiology down. All of her homeostatic mechanisms just kind of receded and went back to kind of normal, and my daughter just went off to sleep. So this altered my whole perception of how broad we have to be in looking for things that can help, as you say, each individual patient. It may not be the same for everybody, to give them a better standard of living, and to give them hope and whatever. So thanks for that, your sharing of that.
Thank you, Tom. I know one of the things that makes me think about when you share that, Tom, is, I have a really close relationship with my son, but he doesn't like talking about his ME/CFS. He doesn't want that to be the focus of our conversations. And he also doesn't want his mother to tell him what to do. So I know that for you being able to share that, I feel that that's a really helpful thing for young people to hear it from someone else who understands how they feel.
I thought you were going to say who's young, but I can't quite claim that anymore. Almost young.